Audio Jungle.
We welcome you all to the memorial lecture of Professor C. Sivagnanasundram, Emeritus Professor of Community Medicine and former Dean of Faculty of Medicine. Today, we gather to pay tribute to an exceptional individual who marked valuable contribution as a medical professional, an academic, a teacher, a mentor, a researcher, and above all, a kind and considerate human being. And he left a rememberable legacy in his field. As we reflect on his contribution, let us take comfort in the fact that his impact will continue to inspire and guide us for years to come. Before we begin today's program, I would like to request you all to stand and observe a moment of silence as a mark of respect and remembrance. Thank you, everyone. I request you all to stand for lighting the traditional oil lamp. First of all, I cordially invite Professor S. Sri Setnaraja, Vice Chancellor, University of Vietnam. Professor R. Surendra Gumaran, Dean, Faculty of Medicine. Our orator, Professor Gamini Hapu Arachi, Professor of Philosophy, Department of Philosophy, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Kelaniya. Dr. P. A. Kunje, Head Faculty of Head Community and Family Medicine. I would like to invite one of your family members to lighting the oil lamp. Thank you all. Now you can take your seats and make yourself comfortable. I kindly request Professor Sri Setnaraja, Vice Chancellor, University of Vietnam, to give an introduction about the orator.
திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். ஆலம் தானுகந்து அமுது செய்தானை ஆதியை அமரர் தொழுதேத்தும் சீலந்தான் பெரிதுமுடையானை சிந்திப்பவர் தம் சிந்தையுள்ளானை ஏலவாள் குழலால் உமனங்கை என்றும் ஏற்றி வழிபடப் பெற்று காலகாலனை கம்பனம் மானை காணக்கண் அடியேம் பெற்றவார். The time is the greatest influence of nature on the human beings. So time brought us to be close to Professor Nandi. Our family members are here. So this association is very rare. The colleagues are here. The students are here. So he shaped many of our lives in the professional career development, as a mentor of the medical learning, and pioneering the community health sciences in this region and in the country, and more than that, the godfather of our community medicine and family medicine. I know the separation is inevitable. So we are human beings are the feeling machine. So we feel every minute and every second of our existence, the environmental, physical, and more than the emotional. So out of that, the feeling of separation is very, very difficult to come by and very difficult to bear with. So Professor Nandi departed us in 2005. At the age of 76, he would have stayed even longer because he conducted a very supreme way of life. I would say supreme. Because in all aspects of life, he maintained very high conduct. As a teacher, as a mentor, as a community man, not only in the community medicine, in the profession, more than that, as a person of his social interactions, especially in the Tamil literary circle and other support system, whatever they exist in our culture, especially in the spiritual development. So in this respect, our medical faculty and the family to take this message he has been always ardently articulated for in the form of commemoration lecture. So one after one, year by year, they arrange one on the community medicine, other one on the universal existence, I call it, the smart spiritualism, going beyond the barriers of religions, the inner existence, inner harmony. So in this respect, so we have today has the privilege and honor to host our prominent speaker today, Professor Gamini Happuarachi. He's a professor in philosophy, University of Kelaniya. So Kelaniya was a Vidyalangara, one of the centers devoted to the development of Buddhist culture and also the Sinhalese culture, the origin of this educational center born out of that culture. Then in the 60s, 70s, is evolved as the University of Kelaniya, and we have a very close association with the University of Kelaniya. Now the medical professor Nilandi is leading the university, sir. And also we have a very good association with the Kelaniya. Now our Tilakaratna is leading the Open University. He was a good friend of mine. He was a soccer captain for the Kelaniya University while I was representing University of Jaffna. So we had a good time. And Kelaniya has a very good place for humanities and social sciences and linguistics and language studies. So many eminent speakers has come from even the medical sciences and decorated this auditorium. Today, his topic is Tattvamasi. That is the oldest phrase in the Vedas. Om Tat Sat and Tattvamasi. These are the seed of everything in the, not only in the physical universe, even in the spiritual universe. Lord Krishna says, physical universe is 1/4 of his entire energy, and the spiritual sky is the 3/4 of his entire energy. So just imagine the infinite material world, and out of that, the spiritual sky, he says, there's no moon, there's no sun, and everything knows everything, full of knowledge. So we call it God as absolute truth and knowledge. So in this knowledge domain, so while we are here in this planet, this open prison, no one can escape. They try to do, but they have to carry oxygen and go out of this atmosphere. So in that respect, while we are here, and also we are gifted with this body, then we leave with this body and go. There is something in it that is go beyond the medical anatomy. That is something called Atman. They call it. So my master used to say, whatever you are looking for is within you. Sir, I think you are going to touch the Western as well as Eastern, the milestone achievements or propagation or development of this Tattvamasi. So Tattvamasi is something like know thy yourself, or something like that is something we call Siddh in our normal Sanskrit thing, Siddh. That's something about the truth, ever eternal. So in that respect, I am very privileged to introduce to you our Professor Orator. Hearing from the wise, we become wise. So it's a very rare occasion in this auditorium. We hear something on Tattvamasi and also in the Western concept. I don't understand, maybe I don't pronounce it right, the German word, Dasein. Dase. So the German is good for philosophy. Even father of communism, Karl Marx, and so many philosophers originated from Germany, musicians, is a land of philosophy. The modern Western philosophy originated from Germany, and that connection he is going to explore. And I will say Gamini Hapuarachi is a professor in philosophy at the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. He obtained BA Honours and MA and excellence in his career, became a professor in the university, and he's, I think, one of the most beloved topic of community medicine. So he functioned as a counselor for many level in the university, in the national level, and he served many committees in the national level and the district level and the international level. And he traveled a lot and published more than 12 books on the counseling and philosophy and our inner harmony. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to invite him, not to be in the middle of it for a long time. Sir, thank you. It's over to you, and great time we will going to have, because I already read this. So it's a wonderful exposition on the journey of philosophy, on Tattvamasi, on the Eastern and the Western front. Eastern front we know a little bit. The Western front we only know the Plato's and Aristotle and Socrates. Then after that we don't know very much. So today we are glad to hear from you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, to the introduction about the orator and the memorial lecture. Now, we kindly call upon Professor Gamini Hapuarachi, Professor of Philosophy, Department of Philosophy, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Kelaniya, to give your oration. You are welcome, sir.
Dear Vice Chancellor of this prestige University of Jaffna, and the Dean, Medical Faculty, all the heads, professors, senior lecturers, and the relations and the friends of late Professor Sivagnanasundram. So, as the Vice Chancellor said, it is a very big occasion to be here and to address to you about our Professor Sivagnanasundram. Yes. Now, we all of us know Professor Sivagnanasundram is an eminent professor who contributed to build up this prestige university, and he is also a well-known scholar in this country as well as in this northern province. So in addition to his scholarly work, we know he is a very good writer, actor, and also a social worker. Now, being a professor, most of our young people think it is a personal achievement, but my view is different. Without the infrastructural and the moral support of the institute, I mean the department and the university and the faculty given, you can't be a professor. So actually a professor is a product of that university. So therefore, our Professor Sivagnanasundram, he contributed a lot to build up this university, and on the other hand, this university gave him this distinguished status as a scholar. And, and our professor, he is not only the production of this university, he is a production of this community. Community, I mean especially the Tamil-speaking community in this northern province. Because in addition to the university, the community also did a contribution to groom a professor. Actually, being a professor is a representation. It is a representation of the community he or she is belong to, and also the professors, the intellectuals like Professor Sivagnanasundram is a symbolic representation of the strength of that community. It is the strength, I mean the cultural strength and the spiritual strength. So therefore, my analysis of this professor, he is a part of this intellectual scenario, and the cultural scenario of the Tamil-speaking community of this country. And he also belonged to us also. I mean, us means the other Sinhala and Muslim communities. Right. Now, our Vice Chancellor nicely explained the part of my title, Tattvam Asi. I am not going to explain Tattvam Asi more because...
It's a Om Tattvam.
Yes, Om Tattvam Asi. It's a very, very famous and a very deep meaning, has a deep meaning and a spiritual meaning, saying from Upanishad. Dasein is a German word developed by the philosopher called Heidegger. So Dasein is very, very, very close to the meaning of Tattvamasi. The both Tattvamasi and Dasein is very difficult to translate. Our Professor Kunye, who invited me, asked once to give the English translation. So I said to him, it is very difficult to translate both. So you must understand the words in that context. Anyway, very close two concepts. Now in this speech, my argument is Dasein, I mean the Tattvamasi contributed to develop Dasein. That is my main argument in this speech. Here. So what is the role played by Atman? Atman, so as the Vice Chancellor explained, the Tattvamasi is actually attached to the concept of Atman. So this concept of Atman contributed to develop the Western psychotherapy. So it is an idea forget or not much discussed in both West and East. So that concept, in English we say the self-concept. This self-concept is mainly came from India. So in my presentation, so what I want to analyze how this concept came from India to the West and how it became a main idea in Western psychotherapy. Right. So if it is analyzed in detail, there are so many causal or so many roots to explain, but I am not going to explain all these roots. I selected three major roots: philosophy, psychology, and psychotherapy. But remember, there are number of scientific explanations and number of laboratory experimental experiments. I am not going to consider those things. I mainly limit my speech to these three areas. I like to start from Ian Goller. Ian Goller, he's a famous man in the West as a not as a veterinary, but as a meditation practitioner. In 1974, this is a personal story. In 1974, he was diagnosed for a high risk bone cancer, and the doctors gave him only 2-3 weeks of life. And the Ian Goller, he resigned from his job and gave everything to his wife, and went to meet another psychiatrist called Ansel Myers. Ansel Myers is a pioneer of the meditation practice in the West, and under the supervision of the Myers, Goller started meditation. Then, however, he was survived. He was survived. In 1978, he did a test and discovered 0 cancer cells. 1978. Then 2011, he did another test and confirmed by the doctors there is no at least a secondary cancer symptoms, right? Then after that, he dedicated his whole life to popularize meditation in the West, and he is one of the person who developed the idea of meditation for health. Right. Now I like to go back to the history. The studies of meditation, it was started in 1930s. We know that the meditation practitioners from Zen, Yoga and Buddhist and Tibetan, so they migrated from east to the west early 20th century. At the beginning, the Western intellectuals, scholars, they thought it is only a religious practice, religious ritual. But later, they had a curiosity, and they started to study about this meditation practice. Here, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, a well-known person, he is one of the person who contribute to popularize meditation in the West. With this Mahesh Yogi, we know that Swami Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, and also Satya Sri Sai Baba. So those are the prominent people who popularized meditation in the West. Here, one hero, Edmund Jacobson. Edmund Jacobson, you see, he's a physician as well as a psychiatrist. He is a pioneer who conduct laboratory experiments on meditation. His main argument was the muscular tension is related to most of our mental and psychosomatic illnesses. So therefore, as a therapy, therefore he introduced psychology to the field of medicine. It was in 1930s. In 1929, he developed the first relaxation method in the West. Now it is called PMR, Progressive Muscle Relaxation Method. Then later, he built up the famous biofeedback test to test the effectiveness of the relaxation and meditation practice. Hans Berger, another hero. So you see that he is psychiatrist, and 1924 he invented EEG test. 1924. Right? So, before inventing this EEG test, the Western idea of consciousness was not positive. We know that from Greek period to 19th century, end of 19th century, mind or consciousness was most discussed field in Western psychology. But at the early 20th century, it was condemned, and a habit or we'll say an ideology emerged to ignore and condemn the concept of mind and the concept of consciousness. And they thought you can't do laboratory experiments on the mind, therefore mind is not a scientific one. That was the early 20th century attitude in the West. Now Hans Berger, his contribution was finding this EEG test. By EEG test, he can these days we think the existence of the consciousness is proved. Not only that, by using this EEG test, he introduced a new idea called alpha wave rhythm. Here, so this is the most the striking finding in the concept of related to the concept of alpha rhythm, alpha blocking. So I am not a person from the field of science. I am not a physiologist. I am not a scientist. So therefore, I do not have any qualification to explain this alpha and alpha blocking. But you can see the EEG test explains the various types of brain waves of the person. Right. Now alpha blocking is here the pausing brain waves at alpha level. So what is then alpha blocking? Alpha blocking is pausing the brain waves. It is a quite unnatural one. Right? The doctors and the scientists here, you know that a normal person under normal condition, you can't do that. When you come to alpha level from beta, then you have to go to the next level theta. You can't wait in the alpha level. But the meditation practitioners do that. Right? Without going to the theta level, they keep their consciousness in the alpha level. That is the idea of alpha blocking. Right. So these are the most popular findings regarding alpha blocking. All these findings are actually various type of meditation practices. Right? If I take the first one, for example, the turning eyeballs to upward. So the meditation and yoga practitioners know. So in the meditation practice, you turn your eyeballs to upward. So when you turn your eyeballs to upward, it is focused to your right center of the temple. So that is the point called third eye. Right? So now what I want to show you, how these Western experiments and the Western discoveries back the traditional Indian ideology. That is what I want to show you. Here, this is the person, Ansel Mears, who trained meditation to Dr. Ian Goller. He is a famous, well-known hypnotist and a psychiatrist. He introduced the word mental homeostasis to the field of psychotherapy. Now, today we call it mental or psychological immunity. Right? So during the corona period, all of us talked about that. If you can improve your mental immunity, then you can save from coronavirus. It is not to the germ, not regarding the germs, but the body healing ability promotes this mental immunity. And the Mears believed the body has a natural healing ability. The problem is our stress and anxieties disturb that ability. So by practicing meditation or relaxation, if you can keep your mind in a calm state, then the body will look after that immunity system will look after your body. So that is the main argument by Mears, and he introduced the idea of health meditation. So after Mears introduced that word, both Mears and the Goller developed two concepts. One is meditation for health, and the other one is meditation for insight. Right. So they are the philosophers. Laing, not only a psychiatrist, he is a philosopher, and he belongs to the existential, called existential trend of philosophy actually he is a Britisher, but that idea is mainly popular in the continental areas, Germany and France. And Laing believed the self-concept. So as I told you at the beginning, the concept of self is related to the concept of Atman. So Laing mainly practiced this concept of self with the schizophrenic patients. It's a wonderful idea, right? Regarding the schizophrenia, our attitude is it's a very big, huge mental illness. You need meditation essentially to treat the schizophrenia, but Laing applied his concept of self to schizophrenic patients and got good results. His philosophy was there are two selves. One is false self and the other one is the true self. You and me, who call the healthy people, actually we live in a false self. Right? We maintain a false self. Earlier, he's also a psychiatrist. There was a man called Carl Jung. Carl Jung used the word persona. Persona is the mask. All of us, you and me, who said that healthy people, actually we wear mask in front of others. Right? We do not show our real face. So the same idea developed by this Lang, and he said actually schizophrenic people maintain his or show their real self, right? So he encouraged schizophrenic people to practice the real self, right? And he discovered finally after practicing this the real self, later on he can understand the difference between the real self and the false self. Then that patient also can wear the false self or the mask. Then he is cured. That is the argument by Lang. Right. Little bit of science. Now the science before 20th century, we know that it was still dominated by Newtonian mechanism, and they thought the physical world is analyzed by Euclidean geometry and so on. So in this world, the scientists wanted to find a final cause, right? And the world, they believed the world can analyze by theorem and equations. That is science, right? If you can explain natural events by theorem and equations, they call that is science. If you can't explain in that way, it is not science. That is what happened to concept of mind. Then they wanted to find primary elements like atoms. They wanted to find the primary elements, and they wanted to build up reduction laws like Newtonian laws, which covers the whole universe. But at the beginning of the 20th century, this attitude of science was challenged. So here I have shown you 3 challenges. One from Clerk Maxwell's electromagnetism, his theory of electromagnetism. I am not going to explain electromagnetism. I do not have the qualifications as well. But electromagnetism, for my lay knowledge, the idea behind electromagnetism is you can't pinpoint one particular material thing, right? And the Ernst Mach, a famous man, he criticized the 19th century science and the Einstein's relativism. Everything is relative. So this is the challenge by 20th century scientist. There was a famous man called Thomas Kuhn. So Thomas Kuhn said, now there is a crisis here. When you have it is a crisis of knowledge. It is a crisis of knowledge. So when you have a crisis of knowledge, you should find a remedy. The remedy is you should bring a new knowledge from another place. That is the theory by Thomas Kuhn. In literature, that is called paradigm shifting. And the 20th century thinkers make that paradigm shifting, and they bring new knowledge from India. From India, here. So these are the people who translated and introduced the classical Indian thinking to the West, right? And the Veda and Upanishad. In Indian thought, Veda and Upanishad are the 2 major fountains. And Veda is mainly religious and cultural identity of India or Indian thought. And Upanishad is the ideological and psychological identity. So this I here especially talk about Upanishad. So Upanishad is not only to limit to India, it is a global one. It's a global type of thinking. It represents the man's advanced thinking, as our Vice Chancellor said earlier. Right. Now, this is Upanishad concept. So this is essence of the person, spirit of the person, and the identity of the person. So this knowledge of Atman should be acquired only by two ways. One is meditation. The other one is the moral conduct. These are the only two ways to acquire the knowledge of Atman. So when you acquire this knowledge, it gives you the freedom of time and space. Newton wanted to study or to find the laws behind time and space. But the Atman or Upanishad thinkers want to free from time and space. That is the difference between the Indian thought and the Western thought. And not only these psychological achievements, by acquiring the knowledge of Atman, you can have metaphysical and metacognitive knowledge as well. Right, here. This is the metaphysical and the metacognitive knowledge. Right. So by meeting the Indian thought and the Western thought, especially in Germany and France, a new philosophical trend started. Schopenhauer is the first philosopher who had a knowledge in Upanishad. Nietzsche, a famous German philosopher, Edmund Husserl, Heidegger, and Sartre. Sartre is a Frenchman. Right. So this new philosophy backed to develop a new psychology. Here Carl Rogers, the famous psychologist and the who introduced the counseling psychology, another person, Viktor Frankl, right? Viktor Frankl belonged to existential trend, neurologist and psychiatrist, right? Very famous people in the field of psychotherapy. Now, both of these persons, the argument was, the reason behind our mental illnesses is with the crisis of self. It is with the crisis of self, right? So Rogers said, if you can't understand the self-concept clearly, or when you can't acquire the knowledge of self-concept, you face what he called incongruence. Incongruence is the causal root of all type of mental and psychosomatic illnesses. And Frankl said, meaningless. He said, meaning is the actually health. Right? If you do not have an attitude of meaning regarding what do you do in this society or in personally, then you feel the anxiety called meaningless or existential anxiety. Right? He said it is existential anxiety. So this existential anxiety make a crisis in your inner crisis. It is a crisis in yourself. The remedy is teaching you back the meaning of this life. I wonder how your Vice Chancellor knows about this concept, right? So what is your duty here in this world? Why did you come here? And what is your duty? And what is the meaning of your life? So those are the teachings by Viktor Frankl. Another man, Ian Stevenson. Ian Stevenson is related to our country also. He is the pioneer person who studied rebirth. Actually, the word he used is incarnation, reincarnation. He came to Sri Lanka and India, conducted a lengthy research. He was a scientist. He used all social science methodology to prove rebirth. Social science methodology he used in India, in Sri Lanka, and in Thailand. It is said he was 20 years professor in Clark University in psychiatry. It is said he has conducted more than 10,000 studies on rebirth. Right? And in his books he says not only our behavioral habits, behavioral disorders or mental disorders, but also some of our habits and some of our body marks. Some of our body marks are coming from the previous birth. Right? He tells this with the research used a social science methodology. So far, no one has challenged his methodology and his statistical analysis. Brian Weiss, still live in America. Brian Weiss, psychiatrist and a hypnotist, he mainly study how our mental disorders and various types of mental difficulties come from previous births. And he said the past life regression is the main reason. When you face a pathetic experience in your life, you regress in your subconsciousness, and in a later birth, it will come out. He mainly studied people who suffer from phobias. Right? Not only the mental disorders, he also show certain behavioral patterns, and some of our personal relationships are come from the previous births. He has written more than 10 books with his case studies. Raymond Moody. Raymond Moody is you can see he's a psychiatrist and a physician. He is the person who study near-death experience. I think you have heard that when you are going to die, sometimes you feel you are going through a dark tunnel. Sometimes at the end of the tunnel, you meet a light man or light person, and he asks, "No, it is not time. You go back." That means you live again, right? So this idea came from Raymond Moody's studies. Right, Raymond Moody studies. You know that he is in America. He studied some patients' experience under high risk surgeries. I know that there are arguments. Some anesthetes have argued that those are the result of anesthesia, and some physicians have argued it is due to the lack of oxygen, and on the other hand, the other people have given answers. Anyway, Raymond Moody is still he is studied. He is the person who introduced the near-death experience. Not only that, who are those light people? He says the light people are actually your dead relations. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross also, there's an interesting story behind her life. She migrated to States and she was given the wards of terminating ill people. That means they are incurable. So those words are not familiar among the doctors' community because you can't do anything with those people. And generally, it is said, these are not my ideas, huh? It is said. So those words are ignored generally. And Kubler-Ross was given those words, and she thought to do something for these patients. So by her experience with these dying people, she could open a new chapter in psychology and psychiatry. That is psychotherapy for dying people. And she became very popular in the world. And then later on she began to believe in rebirth. Not only that, she began to believe in spirits as well. Right? And some of these spirits she met are the dead patients of her ward. So earlier part of her career, she became a world famous, world popular figure. But once she said there are spirits and you can meet the spirits, everything turned the other way, and people, I mean the media and the Western world gave her up, and she died lonely, only with her husband and children. So that is the way. Right. So this is a new era in psychotherapy. We know that Jacobson introduced relaxation, concept of relaxation. Now there are more than hundreds of relaxation methods all over the world. But then later, especially after year 2000, a new concept came, mindfulness. Now mindfulness is a competitive psychotherapy method with relaxation. And some people argue that mindfulness is much more effective than the relaxation methods. Anyway, now both in Sri Lanka relaxation is popular. Mindfulness is still introducing by certain people, right? However, you must remember the mindfulness, the roots of concept of mindfulness is running to Buddhism, sati, samma sati, the correct awareness, Paramatman, right? So when you actualize your Atman, it is said that your mind-body duality would be resolved, and the subject-object difference, the difference between you and me, would be resolved. Right? So the only way, as I told you earlier, or the only way to acquire Paramatman or the Parabrahman is the meditation and moral practice, moral conduct. So until you actualize Brahman, you and me, we live in a Maya, illusion. We wear persona, mask, and we do lot of unnecessary things, hatred, all negative emotions, depression, anxiety. All of those are characteristics of our Maya. So we live in a Maya. So Maya is the main reason for our suffering. So until we overcome Maya, we have to suffer from various psychological and psychosomatic issues. Right? It is 4 o'clock. I was given 1 hour. So I must thank you, all of you, in this evening to join with me. Dear Vice Chancellor, you have done a very, very interesting introduction. I never expected something like that from a medical person. And you are a mathematician. Right. Yeah, mathematics is very close to philosophy. Right? And Dean, I must thank you for inviting me. And Dr. Kunye, so you coordinate me. I make so many troubles to you, and you were always helpful to me. And so I must mention the names of Dr. Parameshwaran, who did so many facilities to me, and I must mention another name, Dr. Muhandan, not in your medical faculty, but in the Faculty of Arts. He's the head of the Department of Hindu Studies. He's the person who recommended my name to Dr. Kunye. So thank you very much, all of you. It was a very pleasant evening to me. Thank you very much again. May all be happy.
Thank you, sir. Your eloquence and heartfelt delivery have captivated us all, and we have learned so much from your words about cognitive knowledge and the intellectual thinking and all. You've given us all a profound sense of comfort and the healing. Thank you once again for your time, energy, and the dedication to this event. Your contribution has been invaluable, and we are grateful beyond the words. Next, in addition to the lecture, we would also like to honor your contribution to the event by presenting with you a memento and the appreciation certificate. These tokens of gratitude will serve as a reminder of your valuable insights and the positive impact that you have made on our audience. So I kindly call Professor Sri Satmana Raja, Vice Chancellor, University of Jaffna, to award Professor Gamini Happo Arachi a memento and the appreciation certificate. Thank you so much, sir. Finally, to everyone present here today, made this event even more special. Your eagerness to learn and be inspired is what keeps the memory of Professor Sri Sivagnanasundram alive. I welcome our esteemed Professor R. Surendra Kumaran, Dean Faculty of Medicine, to the podium to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening. We are gathered here for this Professor Sivagnanasundram Memorial Lecture. Professor Sivagnanasundram is lovingly known as Nandi, was one of the best public health specialists and scientists, and he is a multifaceted personality, contributed to the Tamil literature and spirituality in significant way. So our privilege to celebrate his birthday with a memorial speech is remarkable. So his memorial lecture arranged in a way that to shared with his medicine, spirituality and Tamil. So this year is dedicated for the spirituality. So we, in our great pleasure, to thank our orator, Professor Gamini Kapuarachi, for accepting our invitation and delivering the Nandi Memorial Oration 2023 on Tattavam Asi in Hinduism. No, not that. So, Professor Kapuarachi is a philosophy professor at the Philosophy Department, University of Telangana, and also a certified counseling guide, and has held many positions in Sri Lanka, National Institute of Professional Counselors over the past several years. So my sincere thanks to him to accept our invitation and being here physically to deliver the oration. And also it's a very informative and try to show that the value, that what is our Eastern world can contribute to the Western world. So we are very fortunate to born and live in this part of the world. So I would like to thank Vice Chancellor Professor Sri Sakunaraja for his support and guidance to organize the oration. The Vice Chancellor supported and allotted the time to organize this oration. Thank you, sir, for your continuous support. I also want to thank Dr. Mukundan, the head Cyber Siddhantam, that actually he helped us when we were searching for this orator for this year, particularly to cover this area of spirituality. And then really that helped us to coordinate. So Dr. P.A.D. Kunye, head community and family medicine, facilitated this oration today. I would also like to thank Professor Sivagnanasundram family to facilitate the oration and also attend the event. I also thank the distinguished guests from various departments and organizations for their participation in oration physically and remotely. My thanks goes to council members, former Vice Chancellor, present and former deans, and academic support and non-academic staff for attending the session and also contributing to organize the event. The event is not possible without the support of the Assistant Registrar of Academic and staff, the head and the staff of the Department of Community and Family Medicine, and the Office of the Dean, Faculty of Medicine. I thank all the participants for gracing the occasion physically and online. Finally, I would like to thank all people who have contributed to the success of the event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Sivagnanasundram, he was a man of diverse capabilities. His commitment to the medical profession is general and the community medicine is worthy of great value. His relationship from persons from all walks of life made him an outstanding member of our profession. And we hope that the lesson we learned today will be put into practice and contribute towards the betterment of our community. Once again, thank you all.